Yo, what's going on, guys? In this series I plan to take you from knowing absolutely nothing about Ableton to being able to get the kind of thoughts in your head into the door and be able to start working on your first productions. I remember 5 or 6 kind of years ago looking at Ableton the first time I opened up, and I just went, what the hell is going on here? So that's the plan for today's video, is to open up Ableton, have a look, dissect all the different sections that are going on in Ableton, kind of give you a brief explanation, very fast, very sweet, very simple, to get you right on your way to being able to get your first beats, productions, songs, melodies, all out of your head and into the door. So you open up Ableton and this is the window you're greeted with, and there's a lot going on here, so let's break it down. This kind of middle window here, the big rectangle, is session view. This is where if you were a live performer, you'd kind of create all your clips to be used with a push or other kind of live performance instruments. I'm not going to go over this too much in this episode, but in another one I'll grab the push and we'll do a whole video dedicated to session view alone. Over on the left hand side of Ableton you have this kind of files and folders section of Ableton. This is where you can find all your kind of audio effects, presets, samples, plugins, all of that stuff. So you have Ableton stock stuff from their pads, basses, electric guitars, all of that down into their drum racks that they give you for free. Next you'll have all the kind of stock audio plugins that they give you, so it's your EQs, your compressors, your reverbs, distortion units, all of that kind of stuff. Jumping down into plugins, this is where if you had kind of brought a Nexus, a Silent, Serum, any kind of external VST, maybe some reverbs, delays, stuff that's not native to Ableton, this is where you'll find it. So it'll have your kind of VST2s, VST3s, all stored in this one. If you're having problems trying to import any synths that you brought yourself to get going, you'd hit Control, comma, go over to the files and folders section in the preferences, browse for kind of wherever you've got them stored, hit rescan and make sure you have custom folders on. Next bit about the files and folders section of Ableton is this places bit. I absolutely love Ableton's kind of file bit compared to say Logic's. It's just so simple. So I have my kind of Splice subscription where I download samples from, and I'm able to drag that folder into Ableton, and then they have all my different packs all nicely sorted for me, and any other kind of samples that I want to chuck in there. You can add files and your kind of stuff here by dragging and dropping them or going and grabbing them in your browser. The last bit about the files and folder section that I really do love, I love Ableton for this, is how simple it is to say try and find some ambience. Type in ambi, go maybe into Splice, it will show me all the packs there, go into old samples, and they have all my different atmospheres, ambiences, all that stuff. Works the same for anything, so you can kind of get kick in G. So clean, so fast, and it's just drag and drop straight into the project. Next bit we're going to jump down to is this mixer section, kind of just above the bottom. This is where you'll control all your audio levels and be able to adjust them like that. Toggle your channel on and off if you want to solo it, so just listen to that one. Down below we have our kind of record enabled, so if we wanted to record on this channel or select the MIDI channel to start playing notes in by hand, just toggle those on and off. Up here, kind of the top of the little mixer window, we have our MIDI from, so if you had a push controller or a keyboard that you were shoving into Ableton, you'd find it right in this menu here, and then as long as you have this button down here triggered, you can then use your hardware. Same goes for kind of audio channels, so if you had an external audio device or a microphone you were recording from, you'd find it in this list, or hit configure and go and find your input in there. The monitoring section in the mixer box is cool, so if I wanted to hear what I was recording in, I'd have to toggle in to be able to hear it coming in, set up there you go. So if I was recording from audio 4, which is this channel, press in, I'd be able to hear it coming through into audio 3. This little kind of one that you can twist left and right is obviously left and right on stereo channels, so you get your pan left and right. Make sure you have your speakers set up left and right. Sometimes when I've rewired my studio, I will plug back in wires, go and pan something to the left, and it'll be coming out my right, and I go, whoops. Last bit in the kind of mixer window for all the channel strips is this sends bit. So sends are audio channels that don't use kind of samples on the main channel, they are just an effect send. So you'd whack, say, a reverb on a send channel, be able to send some of audio 4 to it, and this would have the signal from channel 4 going into the send reverb and start giving it as much gain as you gave it there. This can be useful if you didn't want kind of the whole sound to get reverbed, so if you wanted part of it to be dry, you'd be able to send a bit of a wet signal out to the reverb and it will come back, and then you've got a hint of reverb on the still dry sound that you can process back on audio 4. So jumping over to the right hand side of Ableton, you obviously have the send channels. They have audio effects on that you can give gain by doing that, and they will come out of their own output separate to the audio channel. But you also have the master channel. Master channel is the last step in the signal chain before everything leaves Ableton and goes to your speakers. This is where you'd put kind of compressors, last stop EQs, stuff to get the mix really sounding tight, all coming together. And yeah, can't put audio on it, can't put MIDI on it, just effects to get everything sounding good. Now jumping up to the top of Ableton, we have our kind of tempo, our BPM with the tap tempo there. So if you want to tap out whatever tempo you wanted for your track, it would then show up there. We'll keep it down there for the moment. You can adjust this by scrolling up or down, or lifting it up or down. Then we have our kind of time signature. I'd say leave that at 4/4, but this is where if you were doing some weird classical pieces or stuff that need a different time signature to 4 on the floor, that's where you'd adjust that. And then we also have our kind of bar counting for the metronome. So if you wanted a 4-bar counting for your metronome, that's where you'd find that. If you wanted a half bar, that's where you'd find that. Next up in the middle, we obviously have our play, stop, and record. Play is play, stop is stop, record is record. Record works when you click that, have a channel triggered, and hit record. This section up here is the kind of loop of MIDI clip. So if you've got an 8-bar loop, a 16-bar loop that you just want to listen to a few times to keep it going, maybe you're trying to think of a melody idea, this can be really useful just to keep it going round and round and round. I'd say it's more useful in arrangement view, which we'll jump into next. On the top right, we have our kind of MIDI. So if you had an external controller like a keyboard that had some knobs on the top of it that you wanted to say automate a reverb, you'd click whichever parameter you wanted to assign, then go onto your keyboard, give that a twist, go back, click that off, and then you'd be able to assign and control it outside of Ableton. This little pen is kind of draw automation, but we'll go over that one in a minute. And this is being able to control your keyboard with your keyboard. So jumping into the next part of Ableton, we're going to use these to kind of toggle through session view and arrangement, but you can also do that by hitting tab on your keyboard. So in arrangement view, we have a kind of linear timeline going from left to right, from 0 bars all the way out to whatever your song is. And then we also have a kind of MIDI mixer window for each of our channels. So we have our toggle on and off, our output, where's that going to, our solo, our arm, have our pan, our sends, returns, that's all there again. It's just a mini version of all of that. You can kind of hide all of this stuff if you do that, and use these ones if you didn't want it there. And it's really nice. This allows you to kind of get a grasp of what's going on without jumping over into the mixer window all the time. I love kind of this little one. The amount of times I'm using little reference points on there to mix drums just to get a rough estimate. I do that probably too much that it's good for me. So down on the bottom right, we obviously have, just like our mixer, mini mixer window there, we have our sends, returns and master channel. These always stick down the bottom and kind of stay in place even when you've got a big project with lots going on. In this middle window is where you'll be able to input MIDI information, so you can highlight a section, give it a right click and insert MIDI clip. Don't know why I didn't see it. That's strange. But yeah, insert MIDI clip or highlight a section called Command-Shift-M, and there you have it. This kind of works the same for samples, so if you grab literally anything, go and chuck this onto an audio channel, drag and drop just like that, and it's in your project. If you wanted to take a sample and mark it on a new audio track, you can do that by holding and dropping it below everything that's going on. So there's a few different ways to create new MIDI channels, new send channels, new audio channels. You can do it by right clicking and you'll get the little list coming up there, or you can do Command-Shift-T for new MIDI channel, or Control-Shift-T and Control-T for audio, and send is Control-Alt-T. And there we have our new send down there. So you might be wondering, how do I get MIDI, or kind of how do I put my melody into Ableton? So you go into your kind of MIDI region that we just made, you double click on it, and there you go, your piano roll pops up. Then you can work anything you like in, so if we make a quick C major chord, okay, you have a C major chord, and then you can trigger that just by playing. So obviously no sound came out of that, so we need to find an instrument to put on there, which brings us into our next channel, or our next section. So I go and grab any piano, just a cheap Ableton one will do. So down here you saw that pop up, so this is where you'll find your VSTs, your effects, all of that kind of stuff in Ableton. This will switch depending on which channel you're on, and it will show you the effects that are on that channel. So now I have my kind of piano chord that's playing, and if I wanted to add an EQ, I'd go over into the left hand side, go on audio effects because it's an effect, grab an EQ, double click it, and it's on the channel. One thing to notice about the channel strip down here is this little window. This is your kind of scroll, so if you've got a lot going on there, that's how you'll navigate through it. I really kind of love Ableton's channel strip or channel rack. It's nice because it's just at your fingertips, it's pretty much always visible, and you can just grab at stuff, do whatever you need to, click on another channel, nice one, there it is, and you're good to go. So the next thing we're going to talk about is automation. Automation is changes that happen over time. So say if I wanted to get the volume of this piano to come in over time, I'd click on the parameter, I'd go to this red line, I'd hit a note, or I'd hit a kind of point where I want to start, and a point where I wanted it to end, and then you can drag this one around. It might not work with a piano like that, it's one long chord. But there we go. Cool. This works for kind of any parameter you want to automate. So if I then wanted to say automate the send channel with all the reverb on, we'd click on the send channel, come back over, do that, and there you go, you have some automation on there. So that was the kind of quickest and briefest explanation that I can give you of Ableton, just to get you going, just to show you what things are, what they do, where I can find this, where I can find that. And honestly, that's all you really need to get going to start creating your first piece. The main thing, after knowing what some things do, is just to play around, have fun with it, start creating. But I remember yeah, being back at the beginning, just staring at Ableton going, what the hell is all this? And it took that fun away from me in the beginning and like left me wanting just to go and find another program to work with because it seemed so complicated. So that's the kind of plan for these videos, take people from beginner to advanced, really just try and do it easily, have everything all in one place, so there's a series that you can watch, go through and find all the stuff that you need to know very quickly and very fast. If you'd enjoyed this video, please slap a like on it, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It really helps me out being a very small creator. So any love is good love. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.